Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the Individual Artist Career Opportunity Grant Program webinar. My name is Emmett Stevenson. I'm the Director of Artist Engagement here at South Arts, and I will be your host for this session. Ivan, advance, please. All right, so we're going to start off on our agenda today with introductions. We'll look at, take an overview of South Arts. We'll look at the Career Opportunity Grant Program overview. We'll review eligibility, the application, the evaluation process, our timeline for this funding cycle, as well as contact information, and we'll open the floor up for your questions and provide answers as needed. So I'm going to give my colleague Ivan an opportunity to introduce himself at this point.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ivan Shustak. I'm the Director of Communications with South Arts, and it's a pleasure to have you all here with us today. As we're going through the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A box to ask any questions, and we will be getting those at the end of the presentation. Thank you, and enjoy the webinar. Back to you, Emmett.
Ivan, thanks so much. Again, I'm Emmett Stevenson. I'm the Director of Artist Engagement, and I am responsible for partnering opportunities, our artists with opportunities throughout our 9-state region. And I am delighted to be with you today. And thanks so much for the interest in the Individual Artist Career Opportunity Grant. Ivan, if you would advance the slide. A little bit about South Arts. We are an organization established in 1975, so we're hitting up on just about 50 years of service to the Southeast region. We are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, and our mission is to advance Southern vitality through the arts. So as I mentioned before, we serve 9 Southern states, including Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And currently we have about 21 programs that we offer to our region. We are one of 6 U.S. regional arts organizations, and we are a layer of, if you will, of ensuring within the U.S. that citizens have access to the arts. Next slide. So just a bit of a high-level overview of the Career Opportunity Grant Program. This program really is a support mechanism for helping our artists realize a milestone career opportunity that's likely to lead to substantial and significant career advancement. This is not a project support grant, so this is strictly in support, or this program is in support of those activities that will have a positive upward trajectory on an artist's career. That could be an exhibition at a famed venue, like a museum or noted gallery in the US or abroad. It could be participation in a program that's a national festival with significant in-person attendance, et cetera. So it can be a jury showcase. So it could be invitation to screen a film that an artist has created and the curator has come across it and want to get that artist, a stage to present his work to a larger audience. So through this program, we offer assistance up to $2,000 to artists to participate in a career milestone activity. And we know that artists receive these invitations all the time, and that one of the hindrances to really participating in the opportunity is the lack of funding to, say, carry out travel and lodging arrangements, any other expenses like caregiving for children or caregiving for the elderly, if you're taking care of your parents. This program allows you to use funds to meet those expense obligations that you have. Through Individual Artist Career Opportunity Grants, we promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. artists with disabilities, artists who are identified as BIPOC, who self-identify as BIPOC, and those who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, LGBTQIA+ are encouraged to apply. Next slide. So again, this is a high-level overview of the program, and I'm going to touch on some points that are consistently raised in terms of the program. Next up is eligibility. Applicants are eligible who are practicing artists in the following disciplines: visual arts and crafts, literary arts, traditional arts, performing arts, media arts, and multidisciplinary arts. Artists must be 18 years of age or older. They must be United States citizens, residents of the South Arts Regional State, and not a full-time student. Eligible activities would be confirmed invitations to exhibit, sell, screen, present, read, or perform work during a significant in-person forum. Again, confirmed acceptance or invitation to participate in a renowned or major artist residency, or say a writer's retreat. And we also cover expenses for travel associated with a significant career building activity. Now, we list 3 items here, but there are other activities that qualify for support through individual artist career opportunity grants. And if you have an activity that is beyond what we present here, that you seek an opportunity to talk with me through technical assistance, and we'll share more about technical assistance later. But if you have such an opportunity, we can discuss that opportunity and see if it falls within our guidelines here. Again, let's talk about confirmation of invitation. So when we say confirmation, we're saying that at the time the application window closes, or when the application deadline approaches, that you have in hand an invitation from an organization or an acceptance from an organization for an activity, whether that's a residency, whether that's being invited to screen your film at a festival, whether that's being invited to a one-person exhibition or what have you. Ivan? So let's talk about ineligible activities. So the program does not support activities that support or advance the career of groups of artists. So this program is strictly limited to individual artists seeking out opportunities to advance a career, his or her, or their careers. So it is a limited, it's not a group, it's not a grant for a group of artists. Activities centered on cataloging or otherwise documenting a body of work are ineligible for this particular grant opportunity. Workshops that focus on advanced study or an apprenticeship with a master artist are not eligible. Participation in a college or university degree program, that is not an eligible activity. Non-invitational showcasing at booking conferences are ineligible, as well as any professional development activity that includes workshops. Now, we do have some gray area here, and once we get to Q&A, if you have some questions regarding professional development opportunities, some things that might not appear to be professional development for you, you can discuss it there. Again, I also will offer technical assistance where you will have time with me one-on-one to discuss anything about the application process as well as eligible activities. I have a next screen. All right, so one of the key components to the applications, and I really want to emphasize, are work samples. This is an opportunity for you to show evidence of the quality of your practice. So you have an opportunity here in terms of visual, or really any of the work samples, whether they are audio, et cetera, photographs of images of your work, to present 3 samples of work that really represent your current practice. So the works must have been completed within the last 5 years. And when you label the work, make sure you date the work as well. And you are most definitely welcome to submit a mix of media. So for photographs, we are looking for high resolution images of artwork. And again, we would like for those images to be labeled in an appropriate format. So JPEG, TIFF, PNG, PNG files, those are appropriate. Just be cautious of submitting PSD or Photoshop formatted files. Just make sure you convert them over to a more general file format. And when you're submitting photos or images of your work, you only have 3 chances really to make a good impression. So I would advise or highly recommend, strongly recommend that you submit 3 samples that are representative of your work. And I would not recommend that if you submit an image, I wouldn't submit a detailed shot of that image. Again, this is only 3 samples that you are allowed. So, and I'm strictly speaking of video, or not video, but of photographic or images of visual art. So I would recommend that you submit 3 of your strongest pieces that are representative of your current artistic practice, and that they be 3 independent pieces, not necessarily a detailed shot of an image you've already shared. In terms of audio, we highly recommend WAV files. They are the preferred format for audio, but other generally accessible formats are acceptable, like MP3. Just make sure when you submit an MP3 that it is the highest quality that you are able to generate. Again, for audio files, you have up to 3 samples that you can submit. For video, because file sizes are limited, we have up to 25 megabytes of space for you to submit. We ask that you provide links for video content. So when you fill out the application, you will have an opportunity to provide links within the application. Next slide. Okay, another important part of the application is the budget section. So this, the Individual Artist Career Opportunity Grant is a 2-for-1 match grant, which means that South Arts will provide up to 2/3 of the support of the total cost of the activity's expenses. So for instance, if your activity totals $3,000, South Arts will contribute up to a maximum of $2,000 towards those expenses. Again, this is a 2-for-1 match. It covers 2/3 of the costs of the expenses associated with the activity. And just as an example, and a round example, if your expenses total $3,000, South Arts will cover up to a maximum award of $2,000 towards those expenses. The artist will be responsible for identifying $1,000 that can come from personal funds or other sources of contributions to the artist to carry out the activity. So we also ask within the budget section that you identify sources of funds, including self-funding, institutional stipends, or additional grants, and that are not covered by the grant request. So your total projected expenses must meet or exceed the request by 50%. And expenses can include, again, we talked about this, I shared with you earlier, this is probably one of the few grant programs that provides opportunities to cover things like elder care, child care, standard items like travel and lodging, facility rentals associated with your activities, supply purchases associated with the activity, shipping and freight, documenting the funded activity. So if you're awarded a grant for, say, an exhibition, you can document, you can include within your expenses, those expenses associated with documenting that activity. So if you have a photographer that you would like to work with just to document your exhibition, the preparation for your exhibition, the actual execution of the exhibition, the installation of the exhibition, that you can contract with that photographer to document it through photography and include those expenses within your budget in your application. There are other expenses that you can include here as well. We just ask that if you have other expenses beyond the ones that are outlined within our guidelines and here, that you provide some level of specifics regarding those other types of expenses. Next slide. So the application also asks that you provide some levels of demographic information, and that information is only accessible by South Arts staff only. So that information will not be shared outside of the organization, will not be shared with jurors who review the applications. Applicants must submit a current curriculum vitae or a resume as an attachment, and we ask that you limit the document to 2 total pages. Next slide. So we enlist the service and the help, the assistance of a panel of arts experts, arts professionals, in helping us to evaluate our applications. So the panelists review the applications independently. We come together and we discuss the applications, the merits of the applications, and the panel make funding recommendations to South Arts. Now, the evaluation is centered on 3 evaluation criteria. That includes career impact, which is weighted at 50%, artistic quality, which is rated at 30%, budget and capacity, which is rated at 20%. So in terms of career impact, the likelihood that the activities will lead to substantial and significant career advancement, whether the opportunity or the activity is a milestone career impacting activity, and whether the opportunity may be significant because it is informed by an artistic practice, by an artist who self-identifies as LGBTQIA+, BIPOC, or as an artist with a disability. Artistic quality, the artistic excellence as demonstrated through the work samples and the resume, the artistic excellence of the opportunity, the caliber of the host organization, any other artists involved in the activity that the artist is invited to participate in. Capacity and budget, the applicant demonstrates the ability to complete the proposed activity and leverage the experience into a career advancement moment. So as demonstrated through the answers to the narrative, I want to really talk to you about addressing these particular areas. Ivan, next slide. So in terms of career impact, really put some weight into defining why you see the opportunity as a current milestone career impacting activity for your artistic practice. I can't tell you necessarily how to respond to that. I just think you need, when you think about responding to it and when you prepare your response, that you really lean into the question and into an answer that really reflects where you are in your career, how the activity will help accelerate or elevate what you do or take what you do to the next level. We also ask that you describe how you plan to move your career forward after completing the activity. How will you use that experience artistically? How will you use the connections and the networks you build because of the activity? and how we use all of this to take your career higher, or to a higher plane. Also, this is under career impact. You can discuss how your artistic practice is informed by self-identifying as LGBTQIA+, BIPOC, as an artist with a disability. Again, we also ask that you describe how the project or the activity might further your career as an artist. Next slide. So in terms of artistic quality, again, here we're looking for information on how long you've been engaged in this particular artistic pursuit, and what significant milestones have you reached thus far in your artistic practice. We're looking for you to describe the artistic quality of the opportunity, and how it relates to your own practice and your own goals. Again, I think I can't overstate this, but please give us some information on the history of the host organization. So if you're attending a residency at the Joan Mitchell Foundation, I know nothing about Joan Mitchell last year, but there was someone in our pool who was going to Joan Mitchell, so I researched it. But just make sure that you address those types of questions, so that when someone's looking at it, they don't have to actually do that additional step, that you give them the information. And typically our jurors will go out, and if they don't know about it, they'll go out and get more information. But it's nice to have that information there, so that step isn't necessary. Also discuss, if applicable, if you will work with other artists that will inform your artistic practice. You can identify them and briefly describe their work. Next slide. In terms of budget and capacity, if there are any collaborations or partnerships, that you identify them. Also, we want you to present a timeline of the activities associated with your request. That includes prep time, that includes post-activity milestones, etc. And the jurors will use the information you present in a narrative here for the budget and capacity with the budget that you present further along in the application. So the actual budget layout will also be taken into consideration when looking at your budget and capacity. I have the next slide. So here is a timeline of the program that I want to share with you. So we open on Tuesday, February 17th. The application deadline is Friday, March 17th. We will engage a review of the applications between March and June, probably late May of 2023. We will send out award notifications in June, probably by mid-June at the latest of this year. The funding cycle is actually July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Activities should start on or after July 1st, 2023, and end on or before July 31st, 2024. There is a difference here in terms of the activity end date and the actual funding cycle end date. We are building in an extra month so that you have time to really complete all the aspects of the activity. So there is an extra month, July 31st, that everything should be wrapped up with your activity. And we know from time to time things change. Timelines are pushed, and that you may require, if you are awarded, you may require an adjustment to your scope of work in terms of the timeline, et cetera. So there are opportunities to really address those issues as they come up. when those things come up, just know that you can touch base with me. We can discuss them, but we typically require that you make those requests in writing. So once we have a good discussion, you will follow up in writing and make the request formally. And in writing, I will communicate with you in writing just to formalize if the request is or is not approved. So typically they are approved. So we are very flexible. We know the importance of supporting our artists in the region. So again, if there are any questions about the program, et cetera, definitely touch base with us. Next slide. Okay, here's my contact information. I told you about technical assistance, availability of technical assistance. That information for technical assistance is here. That's the link, but it's also on our Individual Artist Career Opportunity Grant Program page at the South Arts website. So you don't necessarily have to copy this. This slide presentation will be available at some future point. So we'll make this available to you possibly by the end of the week. But there's my email address,estevenson@southarts.org. My phone number, direct dial, is 404-874-7244, and the extension is 825. Next slide. So at this point, I'm going to open the floor, and we are going to do a questions and answer session.
Great. So going through the Q&A section here, one person is asking, so is this not a project support grant? Can I apply to use the grant for vendor opportunities to sell my work or hire marketing help?
This is really, again, an activity-based grant. So it's really about connecting artists with these opportunities for invitations. I would like to actually have a technical assistance session with the person who asked that grant. Or asked that question, not the grant. So if that person could just schedule technical assistance, because it depends on, is that opportunity based on an invitation? Was there an acceptance into actually participating in the market? I need to get a little bit more clarity and more detail to really address that. But it's not a project support grant in the traditional sense of project support grants, where an artist identifies, say, an outreach activity to service a community. This is strictly a career milestone or an opportunity that helps an artist grow an artistic career.
Okay. The next question that we have is, are we able to use the funds to pay for travel and per diem for company dancers who will participate in a residency? And can dancers be from around the country, or do they need to be residencies of the 9 South Arts states?
Okay, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but this is an individual artist grant. So support for groups of artists are ineligible. Support requests for groups of artists are ineligible.
Great. Somebody else is asking, can this grant be used for a residency?
Yes, artist residencies are eligible activities. Again, once you have the invitation must be in hand before the deadline, the application deadline date, and you attach that invitation to the application. Again, also just be mindful that when it's an artist residency, any of the activities, that you really speak to the quality and caliber of that artist residency, the organization, the host organization, their quality and their caliber and their renown.
Great. Another person is asking, am I eligible if I am in a low residency MFA program as a student? I think I am documented as a part-time student.
Our eligibility said full-time students. So it's a possibility that you would. Again, I think that's a technical assistance session. So if you would schedule with me, we can briefly discuss that.
Next question is, can this grant be used for research and development for a high-tech in a residency program? Let me read that one more time.
Okay.
Can this grant be used for research and development for high-tech in a residency program?
I know research and development for artists, research and development that artists carry out is supported. I would need more information on what your activity is to provide you with a more comprehensive answer. So again, schedule with me one-on-one technical assistance and we can discuss it.
Does the invitation need to be a signed letter from the organization, or can a public announcement flyer be used for the application?
We would prefer to have a letter from the organization. If it poses an issue with securing the letter in time for submitting the application, definitely attach the published listing. We will follow up with you. We'll follow up with the organization as well as needed.
Somebody else is asking.
Go ahead.
Somebody else is asking, if I am invited to offer a workshop to a community at a cultural arts center by a renowned artist, is that an eligible activity?
Read that one more time, Ivan.
If I am invited to offer a workshop to a community at a cultural arts center by a renowned artist, is that an eligible opportunity?
Typically, the invitation comes from an organization that has standing or renown. Let's talk through technical assistance about that. I would say right now, no, it is ineligible, but would like to get more details about that.
Somebody else is asking, when you say that workshops aren't covered, does that mean workshops that we are participating in or workshops that we are giving?
Workshops that you are looking to participate in. Usually professional development workshops help you grow a skill. So this program does not support those types of activities.
Next question is, I understand that the grants are for individuals, not groups. May I apply as an individual to a residency in which I plan to collaborate with another artist?
Definitely. But be mindful that you show expenses for you as the individual artist and not anyone who's collaborating with you. So we did talk about collaborations. We did talk about partnerships. You can speak to all of your collaborations and your partnerships within the application, the narrative portion of the application. But again, this is an individual artist grant. So I think you covered everything. If it's only for you and it's only covering your expenses and it's an activity that has that serves as a milestone, that can serve as a milestone for your practice, then yes.
We have somebody who is asking for the definition of what a major artist's residency may be, and are there any ineligible residencies?
Typically, what we look for are artist residency programs that have, that are known across the country, if not the world. I have not seen any that we have said that are not eligible, but typically they have to be defined as an artist residency. There are publications or there are groups that really track that. So, we will look or we will research and make sure that it is an eligible residency. If you don't mind, I would love to talk with you one-on-one about that through technical assistance. But typically, I'm not seeing a residency that we have not supported, but we do a bit of research just to make sure that it's a qualifying residency.
The next question is about work samples, and this person wants to know if we're looking for 3 samples of one piece of art or 3 samples of a few images of different work.
The recommendation, I can't tell you what to submit. The recommendation is that you submit 3 works that solidly speak to your artistic practice. I would caution against submitting 3 images of the same work, even if, details of the work. I talked about submitting images of detail shots of a particular work. I am hearing, and in my experience working with jurors, that that's not necessarily helpful for them to make informed decisions on artistic quality. That you, as the artist, should look to submit 3 high quality pieces of work, again, that represent your artistic practice, different works.
Okay. The next question is, I am a doctoral student who is only enrolled during the fall and spring semester, but will not be enrolled when the arts opportunity begins in August of 2023. Are they eligible?
Wow. Typically is at the time of application if you meet the eligibility criteria. So I would say that if those conditions exist at the time the application deadline occurs, that you would be ineligible. If you would like to follow up with me in technical assistance, I would welcome you to do that.
This next person is leaving a teaching career to work full-time as an artist and writer at the end of this year. They are building a studio in their backyard and wondering if they can use these funds to help build that studio.
Actually, this grant program would not support that. Again, we are looking to support either artist residency with a established artist residency program in the U.S. or abroad, or we're looking for opportunities that place the artist in a major festival or a major event with significant in-person attendance, festival, exhibition, jury showcase, etc.
Great. The next person is saying, there are only 3 images that we can submit. For crafts, can one image have more than one piece involved in it, or should it be 1 image per piece?
1 image per piece.
Okay. This next question says that under eligible applicants, it states residents of a South Arts Region state. I'm a resident of Riverside County, California. Am I eligible for any grants in your organization based off my location?
You are not eligible because of your location. Again, we service
just to be clear, this person might be eligible for a Jazz Road grant, which is a national program. So Jazz Road tours and Jazz Road creative residencies are unique within the South Arts platform in that they are eligible to artists around the country. The rest of our grant programs are for the 9 states that South Arts primarily serves.
Ivan, thanks for that clarification.
The next question is, my question is for the time period of the grant offering. If the major artist's residency does not have 2024 dates accessible yet, would a 2023 residency date be acceptable as an example for the time frame of study?
I'm going to say no, because again, we need to have proof that an invitation is submitted, and that it should, unless they are submitting to you, or you receive an invitation for a 2023 residency. If you receive an invitation for 2023 residency, I think, no, your invitation should really specify the dates of the residency. And what we're looking for are dates between the July 1, 2023 and the July 31, 2024 dates.
Thank you. Next question says, for the video, the performance of the footage needs to be within 5 years, or both the creation and sample need to be within 5 years?
Read that one more time, Ivan.
For the video, the performance of the footage needs to be within 5 years, or both creation and sample needs to be within 5 years. My guess is that this might be related to a piece that was originated maybe more than 5 years ago, but it was performed within the past 5 years.
I would like to have more information. Is the dance portion what is being evaluated? Is the film portion being evaluated? If it is a dance portion and it was performed within the last 5 years, acceptable. It is eligible. Same with the video, I would assume, the video creation.
Great. Thank you. And for everybody who's attending, in case you do need to contact Emmett for any follow-up, I have pasted his email address as well as the link to his calendar and Calendly in the chat box, and you can certainly use that. And now back to the Q&A portion. I am planning to record an album and use these funds to pay all the musicians and expenses related. It's not for a confirmed event taking place, but it is for my own personal needs. Is this allowed?
That would be considered an ineligible activity. Again, we would look for, in terms of music, that you would be invited to perform work that you created at, a festival, large in-person attendant festival or showcase, etc.
Thank you. And Michael, as an additional follow-up to your question, depending on the genre of your music, you may be eligible for a Jazz Road Creative Residencies grant, which does support the creation of recordings. So I'd recommend checking that out on our website as well.
Thanks.
The next question is, please explain how total projected expenses must meet or exceed budget by 50%.
I'll say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Please explain how total projected expenses must meet or exceed budget by 50%.
Just a second. Again, that speaks to the 2-to-1 match. So for, again, South Arts will fund up to 2/3 of the project expenses. So we're looking for you to bring 50% of it to the table. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Is using the grant to register for classes considered an eligible project?
To register for classes, I would say, are ineligible expenses.
If my budget is actually much bigger and the host institution is covering a good amount of it, would I just include the part of this grant plus my match to cover, or do I need to include the entire budget?
I'm going to need you to read that one more time.
Sure. If my budget is actually much bigger and the host institution is covering a good amount of it, would I just include the part of this grant plus my match that I need to cover, or do I need to include the entire budget?
You would include the entire budget.
If my activity is taking place from June 17 to July 10, will this be eligible? And I do apologize, there are no years in that framework, so it just says June 17 to July 10.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that that's June 17, 2023. And for our purposes, that is an eligible timeframe. So it would have to be to start on or after July 1, 2023, and end on or before July 31st, 2024.
And we have a similar question about a solo exhibition from June 16 through August 13, 2023, if that is applicable.
Again, it would have to start on or after July 1 of the grant cycle and end on or before July 31st, 2024.
And another person is asking about an exhibition starting in April 2024 through November of 2024, if that is eligible.
So that exceeds the grant period by a considerable number of months. So all of the the activity events or all of the activities should wrap up on or before July 31st, 2024.
We have a question. How many artists will be awarded in this grant cycle?
On average, between 10 and 12 awards.
Are grant awards allocated by discipline or by location?
They're allocated based on the recommendations of the jury, not necessarily location, or what was the other point? Location
Discipline.
or discipline. We don't have a preference for disciplines at this point.
Would working with a smaller, less recognized school in another country that would absolutely be a career milestone be considered?
Read that one more time, Ivan. Sorry.
Would working with a smaller, less recognized school in another country that would absolutely be a career milestone be considered?
I would need more information on that. What exactly will you be doing? Is it by invitation? Is it something in support of your artistic practice? I would need a little bit more information to make just to really give you some more information or give you an answer for that one. If you would schedule technical assistance with me, we can discuss it then.
Can you use this grant to help pay for studio rent at a place like the Mint?
Again, this is, although that is a career enhancing opportunity, this is more of a milestone event that engages the public in an activity. So I would say that would be an eligible activity.
Somebody else is asking if we accept PDF as a file format for work samples.
If push comes to shove, I was thinking about that earlier. So thank you for bringing that up. PDF is an acceptable format. I wouldn't rely on it if you don't have to, but if everything else fails, definitely submit in PDF format.
Somebody's asking if an applicant may be a legal resident, but not a citizen.
There's information in the guidelines that speak to that. Give me just a second. I'll review it really quickly. So you have to be a United States citizen lawfully admitted to the US for permanent residence or have permission from the Department of Homeland Security to work permanently in the US.
Thank you. Somebody else is asking, will invited professional workshops or courses qualify? Could it be more than one? What is the maximum that South Arts will contribute to this activity?
Again, workshops typically do not qualify unless they're highly specialized. Courses do not qualify completely. If you've been invited to, say, a writer's retreat, that is something that is eligible. But just depending on what the workshop is, I would need to review that. So if you can schedule technical assistance with me, we can discuss it further.
If my residency starts on June 1 and runs through August, is it eligible since it does not start on July 1st, but still runs through August?
Right, so that would be ineligible. Again, there's a timeline that we have to adhere to. And again, the activity has to start on or after the funding cycle start date. So that's July 1, 2023, and end on or before July 31st, 2024.
Can the funds be used for career activities for artists in the South Arts states, but activities outside the South, like New York City or Philadelphia?
Yes. So if you've been invited to exhibit in Chicago, New York City, etc., those would be eligible. Again, as long as you meet the other qualifications in terms of the invitation, everything that is eligible. It is an eligible activity.
I was granted an opportunity this year, but prior to the start of the activity start date on your timeline, and it is still a development work. Am I eligible?
Okay, can you read that one more time? I'm sorry.
I was granted an opportunity this year, but prior to the start of the activity start date on the timeline, and it is still a developing work. Am I eligible?
So if it's starting before July 1, it's not eligible. July 1, 2023.
As an individual artist, I have been invited to go to Ghana, West Africa to teach African dance. Can the funds be used for travel and associated costs?
Okay, so in this case, if you have an invitation, it's something that I would need to review, but if it's an invitation from a dance organization, it should be eligible. Definitely schedule technical assistance with me so we can review that.
Will there be additional cycles for this grant to provide assistance for invitations that come to artists during the last approximately 9 months of the year? For example, all invitations after the March deadline.
Right, so we are working on making more opportunities available. So one of the considerations would be having multiple cycles throughout the year so that we don't miss anybody or miss any artists with opportunities like these opportunities. So that's definitely in process in terms of extending the program to extend its reach. And it is forthcoming. It's something that's in development. It's forthcoming.
You mentioned a confirmed acceptance to a writer's retreat as a possibility. Does confirmed acceptance mean that it has to be a competitive process for acceptance?
Acceptance. It's not necessarily, I don't think it doesn't have to necessarily be through a competitive process. If a person associated with that program has identified a writer to participate, I don't know if it has to go through a competitive process. As long as the artist has been identified by the person responsible for curating those selections, that's enough.
Regarding timeline, what if one is seeking support for an international residency that starts the first week of June and ends the first week in July? Extensive work would follow in studio once returning to the US. If support is granted, funding would be available after July 1st, correct?
So again, that's ineligible because it's outside of our grant funding dates.
If it can't be used for rent and space at the Mint, can it be used for office equipment, such as an art desk or other material?
So yeah, this is an activities-based grant opportunity. So this is looking to grow your career, to put you in front of those responsible for curating programs, curating exhibitions, curating festivals. So we're looking to help you grow your career in that regard. So that would be an ineligible activity.
This person seems to be looking for perhaps a little bit of advice about how to best assemble a type of project. They write, the timelines are difficult to meet since normally you need to know you have funding prior to making applications for residencies, out of towns, fairs, festivals, etc. How can this process work for somebody if they don't necessarily know they have funding to apply for something?
So again, when we talk about invitations and acceptances to participate in whatever it is, if it's a festival, etc., a festival, an exhibition, jury showcase, the time we do realize that the timing may not line up with the grant funding cycle, or the window that we have identified for the grant funding cycle. Again, we are at the drawing board looking for ways to create better access for additional artists to take part in these opportunities. And I just say, stay tuned, because we should be making some adjustments pretty soon.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, we do have about 3 minutes left for this Q&A session. We will get to as many as we possibly can. If we don't get to your question, please know that Emmett's email address as well as his Calendly link is within the chat box for any additional follow-up. Are there any stipulations in regards to using the funds in conjunction with other revenue sources that are grant-based?
As long as it's associated with your activity, you're meeting the expenses associated with your activities. Those are the only stipulations. Again, we don't support things like hospitality, purchase of alcohol, that type of thing. So, you know, of course, that wouldn't be included. But again, I think in terms of the expenses that we do support, we're pretty progressive there for this program. So elder care, child care, a laundry list of routine expenses like travel and lodging, supply expenses, facility rental, shipping and freight. We're pretty progressive in terms of the expenses that we do support.
Great. And being that this person was asking about revenue sources that are grant-based, would they be able to potentially use another South Arts grant as part of their match for this?
They will not be able to use South Arts grants.
Okay, but grants from other organizations would be eligible.
That's correct.
Great.
So just to clarify, you cannot match funds, or you cannot identify South Arts funds to meet the match requirement here.
Okay. If you have already applied to a separate South Arts grant, would you suggest submitting different images?
Sure, you can do that. You can submit different images, or you can submit the same.
Yeah. And my guess is that this person probably submitted for our Southern Prize and State Fellowships grant application fellowship, which is a different panel process. So different people will be looking at these different images with different criteria.
That's correct.
Can I apply as an individual artist representing my own nonprofit organization?
You can apply as an individual artist. You don't have to represent an organization. So what we look for is individual artists applying on their own behalf.
Okay. And this is the last question that I think we will have time for. And again, for anybody whose questions we didn't get to, please feel free to reach out to Emmett using the contact information in the chat box. Would this grant cover me if I have been invited by a nonprofit to start a new gallery or workspace in a town mall with heavy public foot traffic as an individual artist?
I would need more information, so please schedule some technical assistance, a one-on-one session with me for technical assistance.
Okay. So with that, we have reached 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and I would like to thank everybody for joining us. And thank you, Emmett, for leading such an informative session. And Emmett, do you have any last words?
No, thanks so much for the interest in this program. Again, just look out for some upcoming modifications or enhancements to the program. We've been thinking about it, and we are in the process of presenting some enhancements so that, again, the timeline is not such a big factor, and that, you know, more people can take advantage of art residencies, can take advantage of exhibitions as they are presented. So definitely look out for that. Thank you so much. Please be in touch with me. If you need technical assistance, please schedule through Calendly. You can also contact me, E. Stevenson at southarts.org, 404-874-7244, extension 825. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. And also please keep your eye out for a survey that will be coming through your email the next day. I've also pasted it in the chat box, and your feedback is very helpful for us as we continue to develop programming and opportunities. Thank you and have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks so much.